Welcome to Dreamy Facts. As the day gently recedes, we invite you to settle into a space of calm contemplation. Tonight, we embark on a journey through ancient history, exploring approximately 100 fascinating facts that reveal intricate patterns, subtle wisdom, and profound beauty within the tapestry of human civilization. There is no pressure to remember or retain these details. Instead, let them unfold naturally, inviting your mind to settle into a state of peaceful curiosity. This exploration is designed to be a soothing experience, a gentle current of knowledge flowing without demanding effort or retention. We will observe the intricate dance of early human societies, the subtle adaptations that allowed cultures to flourish, and the quiet wisdom embedded in the ancient world. Each fact is a small window into the vast and interconnected tapestry of human endeavour, presented in a calm and meditative tone, allowing your thoughts to drift and find stillness. Allow the gentle rhythm of these discoveries to guide you towards a state of relaxation, inviting a sense of wonder and peace as you prepare for rest. We will journey through the cradles of civilization, explore monumental achievements, and touch upon the daily lives of those who laid the foundations for our world. Let these whispers from the past be a gentle lullaby for your mind, inviting a deep and restorative calm. If you're finding peace in this journey, a like and subscribe helps us continue creating these restful explorations. And we're always curious, share in the comments what city and time zone you're watching from. There's something special about knowing this experience is reaching people all over the world as they prepare for rest. We begin our journey in the Fertile Crescent, a crescent-shaped region in the Middle East, often considered the cradle of civilization. Here, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the very first cities emerged, laying the groundwork for organized society, written language, and monumental architecture. This ancient land, known as Mesopotamia, offers a profound glimpse into humanity's earliest complex structures. Sumerians and the first cities. The Sumerians are largely credited with establishing the first known civilization in the historical region of Mesopotamia, specifically in Sumer, located in what is now southern Iraq. Historians generally agree that the Sumerians developed sophisticated city-states as early as 4500 BCE. These were not merely large villages, but complex urban centers with distinct social hierarchies, specialized labor, and organized governance. Uruk, for instance, is often cited as the world's first true city, possibly housing 50,000 to 80,000 residents at its peak, around 2900 BCE, making it the largest city in the world at that time. Other significant Sumerian cities included Eridu, Ur, and Lagash, each functioning as an independent political entity. The construction of these cities required advanced planning and coordination, indicating a sophisticated level of social organization. Evidence suggests that these early urban centers were built from sun-dried mud bricks, a readily available material in the region, which allowed for the construction of impressive public buildings and defensive walls. The development of these cities marked a pivotal shift from nomadic hunter-gatherer lifestyles to settled agricultural communities, fostering innovations that would shape human history. Cuneiform, the first writing system. One of the most profound inventions to emerge from Sumer was cuneiform, considered the earliest known system of writing. Developed around 3400–3300 BCE, cuneiform began as pictographs, simple drawings representing objects, but but quickly evolved into a system of wedge-shaped marks pressed into wet clay tablets using a blunt reed stylus. The term cuneiform itself comes from the Latin word cuneus, meaning wedge. Initially, this writing was used for administrative and economic purposes, such as recording harvests, transactions, and inventories, which were crucial for managing the complex economies of the city-states. Over time, its use expanded to include historical records, legal codes, religious texts, and literature, allowing for the preservation and transmission of knowledge across generations. Scholars have deciphered vast numbers of these clay tablets, providing invaluable insights into Sumerian society, beliefs, and daily life. The invention of cuneiform profoundly changed how information was stored and shared, marking the transition from prehistory to history and enabling the development of complex bureaucratic systems. Ziggurats, temples to the gods. Dominating the skyline of Sumerian cities were monumental structures known as ziggurats. These were massive stepped pyramids, built with successive receding stories or levels, typically made of mud brick. Ziggurats served as temples and religious centers, dedicated to the patron deity of the city. Historians believe that the top platform of the ziggurat housed a shrine or temple, where priests would perform rituals and offer sacrifices. The sheer scale of these structures suggests an immense communal effort and a profound devotion to their gods. The Great Ziggurat of Ur, constructed around the 21st century BCE, is one of the best preserved examples, rising in 3 massive tiers. While their exact symbolic meaning is debated, many scholars propose that ziggurats were intended to bridge the gap between heaven and earth, allowing the gods to descend and interact with humanity. Their elevated position also served a practical purpose, protecting the sacred areas from the frequent flooding of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. These imposing structures were not just places of worship, but also symbols of the city-state's wealth, power, and religious identity. Early law codes, Ur-Nammu and Hammurabi. The concept of codified law, designed to maintain order and justice within society, also has its roots in ancient Mesopotamia. The earliest known law code is attributed to Ur-Nammu, who ruled the Sumerian city-state of Ur around 2100–2050 BCE. The Code of Ur-Nammu outlines various legal principles, including punishments for assault, theft, and false accusations, often prescribing fines rather than physical retribution. However, the most famous and comprehensive ancient Mesopotamian law code is the Code of Hammurabi, enacted by the Babylonian king Hammurabi around 1754 BCE. This collection of 282 laws is inscribed on a large diorite stele and covers a wide range of legal matters, including family law, property law, and commercial regulations. The Code of Hammurabi is known for its quote to principle, or lex talionis, although punishments varied greatly depending on the social status of the perpetrator and the victim. These legal codes demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of justice and governance, providing a framework for resolving disputes and maintaining social stability in complex urban environments. Mesopotamian mythology, Epic of Gilgamesh. The rich cultural life of Mesopotamia is vividly preserved in its mythology and literature, with the Epic of Gilgamesh standing as one of the earliest surviving great works of literature. This epic poem, originating from Sumerian myths, and later compiled into a more complete Akkadian version around 2100 BCE, tells the story of Gilgamesh, a legendary king of Uruk. The narrative explores universal themes such as friendship, loss, the search for immortality, and humanity's place in the natural world. Gilgamesh's journey, his friendship with the wild man Enkidu, and his quest to find the secret of eternal life resonate deeply with human experience. Notably, the epic contains a flood narrative that bears striking similarities to later biblical accounts, suggesting a shared cultural memory or influence. The Epic of Gilgamesh offers profound insights into Mesopotamian worldview, their understanding of mortality, heroism, and the relationship between humans and the divine. It reminds us that fundamental human questions and stories have echoed across millennia. Innovations in agriculture and irrigation. The agricultural productivity of Mesopotamia was foundational to its development, made possible by ingenious innovations in irrigation. The region's fertile soil, enriched by the annual flooding of the Tigris and Euphrates, was harnessed through a complex system of canals, dams, and dikes. Sumerian farmers developed sophisticated techniques to divert river water to their fields, allowing them to cultivate crops far from the riverbanks and manage water resources efficiently. This controlled irrigation enabled multiple harvests per year, leading to food surpluses that supported a growing population and allowed for specialization of labor. Key crops included barley, wheat, dates, and various vegetables. The development of the plough, initially a simple wooden tool, further revolutionized farming efficiency. These agricultural advancements were critical. They transformed scattered farming settlements into dense urban centers by providing a stable and abundant food supply, freeing a significant portion of the population from direct food production and allowing them to pursue other crafts and intellectual endeavors. The rise and fall of empires: Akkadians, Babylonians, Assyrians. Mesopotamian history is characterized by a dynamic succession of powerful empires, each leaving its distinct mark. Following the Sumerian city-states, the Akkadian Empire, led by Sargon of Akkad, rose to prominence around 2334 BCE, creating the world's first multi-city-state empire. Sargon united much of Mesopotamia under a single rule, establishing a precedent for larger political entities. After the fall of Akkad, the region saw the rise of the Old Babylonian Empire under Hammurabi, who, as mentioned, established a comprehensive legal code and further centralized power. Later, the Assyrians emerged as a formidable military power, creating an empire that, at its height, stretched from Egypt to Persia. The Neo-Assyrian Empire, 911-609 BCE, was particularly known for its highly organized army, siege warfare, and impressive palaces adorned with detailed reliefs. Each of these empires contributed to the administrative, architectural, and cultural evolution of Mesopotamia, demonstrating cycles of unification, expansion, and eventual collapse, influenced by internal strife and external pressures. Astronomy and mathematics. The Mesopotamians made significant contributions to astronomy and mathematics, driven by both practical and religious needs. Their observations of celestial bodies were remarkably precise, leading to the development of a sophisticated calendar system that helped regulate agricultural activities and religious festivals. They identified constellations and tracked the movements of planets, creating detailed astronomical tables. In mathematics, the Sumerians and Babylonians developed a sexagesimal, base 60 number system, which profoundly influenced later civilizations. This system is still visible in our modern divisions of time: 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, and circles 360 degrees. They also understood concepts of geometry, algebra, and quadratic equations, using them for land surveying, architectural design, and calculating astronomical phenomena. Evidence suggests they even had a rudimentary understanding of the Pythagorean theorem centuries before Pythagoras. Their meticulous records and computational skills laid crucial foundations for future scientific and mathematical inquiry. Daily life and social structure. Life in ancient Mesopotamia was structured within a hierarchical society, with distinct roles and responsibilities for its members. At the top were kings, priests, and nobility, followed by a class of scribes, merchants, and artisans. The vast majority of the population consisted of farmers and labourers, while slaves, often prisoners of war or those in debt, occupied the lowest rung. Homes were typically built of mud brick, with wealthier families residing in larger multi-room dwellings. Diet primarily consisted of barley bread, dates, fish, and some meat. Women in Mesopotamia generally held more rights than in some later ancient societies. They could own property, engage in business, and initiate divorce in certain circumstances, though their primary role was often within the household. Children learned trades from their parents, or, if from wealthier families, attended scribal schools. The rhythm of daily life was closely tied to agricultural cycles, religious festivals, and the demands of the city-state's administration. The legacy of Mesopotamia. The legacy of Mesopotamia is immeasurable, profoundly shaping the course of human history. Their innovations in writing, law, urban planning, and mathematics provided blueprints for subsequent civilizations. The concept of the city-state, the development of complex irrigation systems, and the codification of laws established frameworks for organized society that persist in various forms to this day. The Epic of Gilgamesh continues to be studied as a foundational piece of world literature, while their astronomical observations contributed to our understanding of the cosmos. The very idea of civilization, with its intricate layers of governance, culture, and technological advancement, finds its earliest and most robust expressions in the lands between Civers. The quiet echoes of their achievements continue to resonate, reminding us of humanity's enduring capacity for innovation and cooperation in building the foundations of a world. In this first chapter, we have gently touched upon the remarkable beginnings of human civilization in Mesopotamia, a land of firsts and profound ingenuity. From the earliest written words to the towering ziggurats, these ancient peoples laid down the foundational stones of organized society, inviting us to contemplate the enduring power of human creativity and the deep roots of our shared history. We observe how the desire to record, to govern, and to understand the world around them propelled these early cultures forward, leaving a legacy that continues to inform and inspire. As the gentle echoes of Sumerian ingenuity and Akkadian might begin to softly dissipate, we find ourselves drifting further along the timeless currents of human endeavour, guided by the very same serene and steady rhythm that brought us to this tranquil moment. We invite you now to settle even deeper into your peaceful repose, allowing the soft tapestry of ancient history to unfold with an unhurried grace, revealing new layers of wonder and wisdom. we journey onward, following the faint yet indelible marks left by civilizations that shaped the very bedrock of our world, observing how their legacies, like slow-moving rivers, carved paths that future generations would inevitably follow. From the foundational achievements of Sumer and Akkad, the narrative of Mesopotamia flowed into a golden age under the Old Babylonian Empire, a period that witnessed the city of Babylon rise to unprecedented prominence. Under the sagacious rule of King Hammurabi, who reigned from approximately 1792 to 1750 BCE, Babylon became a beacon of sophisticated governance, cultural vibrancy, and intellectual pursuit. Hammurabi, often remembered for his groundbreaking legal code, was far more than a lawgiver. He was a brilliant strategist, an astute administrator, and a devoted patron of the arts and sciences. His reign marked a zenith for Mesopotamian civilization, characterized by a renewed sense of order and a flourishing of intellectual life. We recall the Code of Hammurabi, a monumental achievement in legal thought, which established a comprehensive framework of justice for his vast empire. Carved in cuneiform onto a towering basalt stele, this code was not merely a collection of punitive measures, but a detailed articulation of societal norms, economic regulations, and personal responsibilities. It covered everything from property rights and family law to trade and professional standards, providing a clear, albeit hierarchical, system of justice. The famous principle of Gruas, quote 3, lex talionis, encapsulated a desire for proportional retribution, a concept that would resonate through legal systems for millennia. Yet, it also detailed provisions for protecting the vulnerable, regulating commerce, and ensuring accountability, reflecting a deep-seated desire for a stable and prosperous society. Beyond the legal sphere, Hammurabi's Babylon distinguished itself through remarkable advancements in irrigation and agriculture. Understanding that the fertility of the land was paramount to the prosperity of his people, Hammurabi initiated extensive projects to maintain and expand the intricate network of canals that crisscrossed Mesopotamia. These waterways were not only vital for crop irrigation, but also served as essential arteries for trade and communication, binding the disparate parts of his empire together. His engineers developed sophisticated techniques to manage the unpredictable floods of the Tigris and Euphrates, transforming fertile but volatile lands into reliable breadbaskets. This meticulous management of resources allowed for significant food surpluses, which in turn supported a growing urban population and fostered a vibrant economy. The city of Babylon itself during Hammurabi's time was a marvel of ancient urban planning. Its massive defensive walls, bustling marketplaces, and grand temples dedicated to the patron god Marduk spoke of a powerful and thriving metropolis. Scribes meticulously recorded administrative decisions, legal cases, and literary works on clay tablets, ensuring that knowledge and history were preserved. Astrologers and mathematicians continued to refine the base 60 numerical system, making precise astronomical observations that informed their calendars and religious practices. The intellectual curiosity and systematic approach to understanding the cosmos, which had begun with the Sumerians, reached new heights in old Babylonian schools and observatories. Yet, even the most formidable empires are subject to the inexorable flow of time and the shifting tides of power. As the old Babylonian Empire began to wane, new forces emerged from the periphery, ready to challenge its dominance. from the rugged highlands of Anatolia, a powerful and innovative people known as the Hittites began to assert their influence. The Hittites, speaking an Indo-European language distinct from the Semitic tongues of Mesopotamia, developed a formidable military machine, renowned for its mastery of the horse-drawn chariot and its early adoption of iron metallurgy. While bronze had been the primary metal for tools and weapons for centuries, the Hittites pioneered the large-scale production and use of iron, giving them a significant technological advantage in warfare and agriculture. Around 1595 BCE, the Hittites, under King Mursili III, launched a daring raid that culminated in the sack of Babylon, effectively bringing an end to the old Babylonian dynasty. This event marked a significant turning point in ancient Near Eastern history, demonstrating the interconnectedness of these early civilizations and the constant flux of power. Though the Hittites did not long occupy Babylon, their actions paved the way for a period of political fragmentation in Mesopotamia, setting the stage for the rise of other formidable empires. We observe how the introduction of iron technology by the Hittites would gradually transform warfare, agriculture, and daily life across the ancient world, a quiet revolution born in the crucible of their Anatolian workshops. As the second millennium BCE progressed, a new, formidable power began to consolidate its strength in northern Mesopotamia along the upper reaches of the Tigris River, the Assyrians. Originally centered around the city of Ashur, the Assyrians were a Semitic people who, over centuries, forged an empire of unparalleled military might and administrative sophistication. Their history is often divided into three main periods: the Old, Middle, and Neo-Assyrian empires, with the latter being the most expansive and impactful. It is the Neo-Assyrian Empire, c. 911-609 BCE, that we now gently turn our attention to, an era characterized by vast territorial expansion, ruthless military efficiency, and breathtaking architectural achievements. The Assyrian military was a force to be reckoned with, truly an innovation in ancient warfare. They were masters of siegecraft, employing battering rams, sappers, and siege towers to breach even the most formidable city walls. Their armies were highly organized, disciplined, and equipped with superior iron weaponry, giving them a decisive edge over their adversaries. Kings like Ashur-Nasirpal II, Shalmaneser III, Tiglath-Pileser III, and Sennacherib led their forces in relentless campaigns, extending Assyrian dominion from Egypt to the Persian Gulf, creating an empire of unprecedented scale. Their tactics, while brutal, were incredibly effective, and their empire became a dominant power across the Near East. Beyond their military prowess, the Assyrians were also brilliant administrators. They developed a highly centralized system of governance, dividing their vast empire into provinces, each overseen by a loyal governor. A sophisticated network of roads facilitated rapid communication and troop movement, while a system of state-sponsored couriers ensured that royal decrees reached the furthest corners of the empire swiftly. They also pioneered large-scale deportations of conquered peoples, a controversial but effective strategy to suppress rebellion and integrate diverse populations into the imperial structure. This policy, though harsh, contributed to the cultural blending and dispersal of knowledge across the Near East. The Assyrians also left an indelible mark on art and architecture. Their capital cities such as Ashur, Kalhu, Nimrud, Khorsabad, and most famously Nineveh, were adorned with magnificent palaces, temples, and colossal sculptures. Intricate bas-reliefs carved into palace walls depicted vivid scenes of royal hunts, military victories, and religious ceremonies, serving as powerful propaganda and historical records. These detailed depictions offer us invaluable insights into Assyrian life, beliefs, and imperial ideology. Perhaps one of the most significant Assyrian contributions to human knowledge was the royal library of Ashurbanipal at Nineveh. King Ashurbanipal reigned 668–627 BCE. A cultured and literate monarch, amassed a vast collection of cuneiform tablets, dispatching scribes throughout his empire to copy and collect texts from all periods of Mesopotamian history. This incredible library, discovered in the 19th century, contained tens of thousands of tablets, preserving not only Assyrian historical records and administrative documents, but also Sumerian and Babylonian literary masterpieces, scientific treatises, and religious texts. It is thanks to Ashurbanipal's foresight that works like the Epic of Gilgamesh survived to be rediscovered in modern times, offering us a direct window into the profound intellectual heritage of ancient Mesopotamia. Yet, even the mighty Assyrian Empire, with its vast armies and sophisticated administration, eventually succumbed to the forces of rebellion and external pressure. A coalition of Medes from the Iranian plateau and Babylonians, who had long chafed under Assyrian rule, rose up against their overlords. In 612 BCE, the glorious city of Nineveh fell after a brutal siege, marking the dramatic collapse of the Neo-Assyrian Empire. From the ashes of Assyrian dominance, a new power emerged to reclaim the ancient glory of Babylon, the Neo-Babylonian Empire. Under the charismatic leadership of kings like Nabopolassar and his son Nebuchadnezzar II, reigned 605–562 BCE, Babylon once again rose to become the preeminent power in Mesopotamia. Nebuchadnezzar Turks, in particular, presided over a period of immense rebuilding and cultural flourishing, transforming Babylon into one of the most magnificent cities of the ancient world. He extended the empire's reach, conquering Judah and other territories, and left behind an architectural legacy that captivated the imagination for centuries. It was during Nebuchadnezzar's reign that Babylon truly became a legendary city, its towering defensive walls, said to be wide enough for chariots to turn on, and the monumental Ishtar Gate, adorned with vibrant glazed bricks depicting lions, dragons, and bulls, stood as testaments to the empire's wealth and artistic sophistication. The city's splendor was further enhanced by its grand processional ways, luxurious palaces, and numerous temples dedicated to its pantheon of gods. Legend also attributes the construction of the fabled Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, to Nebuchadnezzar II, built to soothe his homesick Median wife. While archaeological evidence for the Hanging Gardens remains elusive, their enduring legend speaks volumes about the city's perceived grandeur. The Neo-Babylonian Empire, though glorious, was relatively short-lived. Its final independent ruler, Nabonidus, and his co-regent Belshazzar faced the rising threat of a new imperial power from the east, the Persians. In 539 BCE, under the leadership of Cyrus the Great, the Persian Empire conquered Babylon without a major battle, marking the end of Mesopotamia's long history of independent empires. With the advent of the Achaemenid Persian Empire, Mesopotamia became a crucial satrapy, province, within an even vaster imperial structure. Cyrus the Great, renowned for his enlightened policies, allowed conquered peoples to retain their customs and religions, including the Jews who had been exiled to Babylon. The Persians, though not originally from Mesopotamia, inherited and adapted many of its administrative and cultural innovations, integrating them into their own sophisticated imperial system. Their vast network of roads, their standardized currency, and their efficient postal service all owed a debt to the administrative blueprints laid down by their Mesopotamian predecessors. As we gently conclude this segment of our journey, we reflect on the incredible ebb and flow of power, the rise and fall of empires, and the enduring human spirit that characterized ancient Mesopotamia. From the early city-states of Sumer to the vast reach of the Persian Empire, this region served as a crucible for innovation, a stage for monumental achievements, and a source of profound wisdom. Each civilization, in its own unique way, contributed to the intricate tapestry of human experience, leaving behind facts that whisper across the millennia, inviting us to listen, to learn, and to find a quiet sense of wonder in their stories. May these gentle whispers from the past guide you now into deeper tranquility, as the soft currents of history continue to carry you towards a restful and peaceful slumber. As the echoes of the Persian conquest gently recede into the vast corridors of time, bringing to a close the independent reign of Mesopotamia's vibrant empires, we find ourselves at another significant threshold. The tapestry of human civilization, ever weaving new patterns, now invites our gaze to turn westward, to a land shaped by a single benevolent artery, a verdant ribbon unfurling through an otherwise austere desert landscape. We invite you now to drift with us across the ancient sands to the fertile banks of the Nile, where another grand civilization, equally profound and enduring, began to write its own epic story. Let us settle into a quiet contemplation of ancient Egypt, a civilization whose very name conjures images of timeless majesty, enigmatic pharaohs, and structures that seem to touch the heavens. Unlike Mesopotamia, where cities vied for control along the Tigris and Euphrates, Egypt's destiny was singularly bound to the rhythm and grace of the Nile River. This mighty river, flowing northward from the heart of Africa to the Mediterranean Sea, was not merely a source of water, it was the lifeblood, the very pulse of the land. Its annual predictable inundation, bringing fertile black silt to the parched earth, created an agricultural abundance that allowed a complex society to flourish for millennia, fostering a unique worldview deeply attuned to cycles of renewal and rebirth. Before the grand dynasties, the land of Egypt was a mosaic of smaller, independent communities, often referred to as nomes, scattered along the riverbanks. These early settlements, during what we call the pre-dynastic period, slowly coalesced into two distinct kingdoms: Upper Egypt in the south, characterized by its tall white crown, and Lower Egypt in the north, symbolized by its red crown. It was from this fertile duality that the concept of unification would emerge, a pivotal moment in the shaping of the Egyptian state. Around 3100 BCE, a figure of immense historical significance, often identified as King Narmer, or sometimes Menes, is credited with uniting these two lands into a single, cohesive realm. The Narmer palette, a ceremonial slate dating from this era, powerfully depicts this unification, showing the pharaoh wearing the crowns of both Upper and Lower Egypt, symbolizing his dominion over the entire Nile Valley. This act of unification was more than a mere political merger. It laid the foundational blueprint for a centralized government, a unified culture, and a distinct identity that would endure for nearly 3,000 years. With this unification, the early dynastic period began, marking the formal commencement of pharaonic rule and setting the stage for one of history's most iconic civilizations. As the centuries progressed, Egypt entered its magnificent Old Kingdom. c. 2686 to 681 BCE, an era often referred to as the Age of the Pyramids. During this time, the concept of the pharaoh as a divine king, an earthly manifestation of the gods, became firmly established. The pharaoh was not merely a ruler, but the living embodiment of the cosmic order, responsible for maintaining Ma'at, the fundamental principles of truth, justice, balance, and cosmic harmony that governed the universe. His well-being was inextricably linked to the prosperity of the land and its people. It was under the pharaohs of the Old Kingdom that monumental architecture reached unparalleled heights. The very first true pyramid, the Step Pyramid at Saqqara, was constructed for King Djoser of the Third Dynasty. Designed by the visionary architect Imhotep, this revolutionary structure, rising in majestic steps towards the heavens, was a precursor to the smoother-sided pyramids that would follow. It was a profound statement of power, belief, and architectural ingenuity, demonstrating a sophisticated understanding of engineering and organization. The pinnacle of pyramid building, however, arrived with the Fourth Dynasty, at the Giza Plateau. Here, the pharaohs Khufu, Khafra, and Menkaure commissioned the construction of the Great Pyramids, eternal resting places that remain among the most awe-inspiring achievements of the ancient world. The Great Pyramid of Khufu, the largest of the three, stood as the tallest man-made structure for over 3,800 years. These colossal tombs were not merely burial sites. They were complex funerary complexes designed to safeguard the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife and ensure his eternal existence, thus guaranteeing the continued prosperity of Egypt. The sheer scale of these projects, requiring immense labour, precise astronomical alignment, and sophisticated planning, speaks volumes about the centralized authority and organizational prowess of the Old Kingdom state. Alongside these architectural marvels, the Old Kingdom saw the full development of hieroglyphic writing. This intricate script, combining pictographic, syllabic, and alphabetic elements, was revered as the words of the gods. Carved into temple walls, monumental stelae, and papyrus scrolls, hieroglyphs served not only for religious texts and royal decrees, but also for administrative records, historical accounts, and literary works. The ability to read and write was a specialized skill held by scribes, who formed a vital class within Egyptian society, diligently recording the details of daily life and the grand narratives of their pharaohs. The Old Kingdom, while glorious, eventually faced challenges. Towards its end, the power of the central government began to wane, and regional governors, known as nomarchs, gained increasing autonomy. This gradual decentralization, coupled with environmental factors such as lower Nile floods, eventually led to the collapse of centralized authority and the fragmentation of the state, ushering in the First Intermediate Period, c. 2181-2055 BCE. This was a time of political instability and often localized conflict, a departure from the unified glory that preceded it. Yet, even in this era of disunity, Egyptian culture persisted, adapting and evolving, patiently awaiting the return of a strong unifying hand. From this period of fragmentation, a new era of unity and prosperity would eventually emerge, the Middle Kingdom, c. 2055 1650 BCE. This resurgence began around 2055 BCE, when Mentuhotep II, a pharaoh from Thebes, successfully reunified Egypt, marking the beginning of the 11th dynasty and the return to centralized rule. The Middle Kingdom is often celebrated as a golden age of Egyptian literature and art, characterized by a renewed emphasis on intellectual and cultural pursuits. During this period, literature flourished, producing timeless works that offer profound insights into Egyptian thought and society. Tales such as the story of Sinuhe, a gripping narrative of a courtier's exile and eventual return, reveal a sophisticated understanding of human psychology and the enduring power of home. These literary creations were not only entertaining, but also served to reinforce moral values and the ideals of Egyptian kingship. Art, too, saw a shift, with sculptures portraying pharaohs with more human, reflective expressions, moving away from the more idealized, rigid forms of the Old Kingdom. The Middle Kingdom pharaohs also expanded Egypt's reach, particularly southward into Nubia, establishing a series of formidable fortresses to protect trade routes and secure access to valuable resources like gold and exotic goods. This expansion demonstrated a renewed military strength and a strategic vision for securing Egypt's economic interests. Religious beliefs also saw development, with the cult of Osiris, god of the underworld and resurrection, gaining prominence. The promise of an afterlife became more accessible to common people, not just the pharaoh, provided they lived according to Mesopotamia. However, the tranquility of the Middle Kingdom was eventually disturbed. Around 1782 BCE, a new wave of external pressures began to challenge Egypt's stability, leading to the Second Intermediate Period, c. 1650–1550 BCE. During this time, a group known as the Hyksos, originating from Western Asia, slowly infiltrated and eventually gained control over much of Lower Egypt, establishing their capital at Avaris in the Nile Delta. The Hyksos brought with them new technologies, notably the horse-drawn chariot and improved bronze weaponry, which gave them a military advantage over the Egyptians. While initially seen as foreign invaders, the Hyksos also introduced cultural innovations that were eventually adopted by the Egyptians, showcasing the complex interplay of conquest and cultural exchange. Despite their foreign rule, the Hyksos period inadvertently spurred a renewed sense of Egyptian nationalism. Over time, a series of native Egyptian rulers, based in Thebes, began a concerted effort to expel the Hyksos. This arduous struggle culminated in the decisive campaigns of Ahmose, who successfully drove out the Hyksos and reunified Egypt once more, ushering in an era of unparalleled imperial power and grandeur. With the Hyksos expulsion, the stage was set for the dawn of the New Kingdom, c. 1550–1070 BCE, a period that would witness Egypt's greatest territorial expansion, its most powerful pharaohs, and some of its most enduring legacies. But these stories of warrior pharaohs, powerful queens, and monumental temples we reserve for another tranquil moment. For now, let us allow the images of the unified Nile, the towering pyramids, and the intricate hieroglyphs to gently settle in our minds, guiding us deeper into a state of serene contemplation as the ancient whispers of Egypt's enduring spirit fill the quiet spaces. We invite you to embrace this peaceful journey through time, allowing the gentle flow of history to lull you towards a restful slumber. As the Hyksos were driven from the delta, their foreign rule expelled from the fertile lands of Lower Egypt, a new era dawned, bathed in the promise of renewed strength and unparalleled grandeur. The reunification of the two lands under Ahmose, the founder of the illustrious 18th dynasty, ushered in what we know as the New Kingdom, c. 1550–1070 BCE. This was a period of unprecedented imperial power, monumental construction, and cultural flourishing, a testament to the enduring spirit and ambition of ancient Egypt. We invite you now to drift gently through these formidable centuries, to witness the rise of warrior pharaohs and influential queens, to observe the intricate dance of diplomacy and conquest that shaped the ancient world. Let the echoes of their triumphs and their artistic brilliance guide you further into a state of serene contemplation as we uncover the facts that paint this vibrant chapter of human history. The New Kingdom marked a profound shift in Egypt's self-perception and its role on the global stage. Having learned harsh lessons from the Hyksos occupation, the pharaohs of this era adopted a more outward-looking and militaristic stance. No longer content with merely defending their borders, they actively sought to create an empire, extending Egypt's influence deep into Nubia to the south and across the Levant to the northeast. This expansion secured vital trade routes, natural resources like gold and timber, and established Egypt as the dominant power in the Near East. Among the earliest and most remarkable figures of this period was Hatshepsut, a queen who ascended to the throne not merely as a regent, but as a fully vested pharaoh, ruling for over 2 decades, c. 1479–1458 BCE. Breaking traditional gender norms, she often depicted herself with the regalia of a male king, including a false beard, asserting her divine right to rule. Her reign was largely one of peace and prosperity, characterized by extensive building projects and ambitious trading expeditions, most notably to the fabled land of Punt. Her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari, a stunning terraced structure carved into the cliffs, remains one of the architectural masterpieces of ancient Egypt, a serene and imposing monument to her unique legacy. Following Hatshepsut, her stepson, Thutmose III, c. 1479–1425 BCE, emerged as one of Egypt's greatest warrior pharaohs, often referred to as the Napoleon of Egypt. He led numerous successful military campaigns, consolidating and expanding the Egyptian empire to its greatest territorial extent. His decisive victory at the Battle of Megiddo, a meticulously planned engagement that secured control over the Levant, showcased his strategic genius. Thutmose III's annals, inscribed on the walls of the Karnak temple, provide invaluable insights into his military prowess and the vast wealth that flowed into Egypt during his reign, enriching its temples and solidifying the pharaoh's power. As the empire flourished, so too did the arts and religious practices. However, a dramatic, albeit brief upheaval occurred during the reign of Akhenaten, c. 1353–1336 BCE. This enigmatic pharaoh, originally Amenhotep IV, initiated a radical religious revolution, abandoning the traditional pantheon of gods in favor of the sole worship of the Aten, the sun disk. He moved the capital from Thebes to a newly constructed city, Akhetaten, modern Amarna, and with his equally famous queen, Nefertiti, presided over a period of profound artistic change. The Amarna style, as it is known, broke from rigid conventions, depicting figures with a more naturalistic and elongated aesthetic, a bold departure from centuries of tradition. While his religious reforms were ultimately short-lived, reversed by his successors, the artistic legacy of the Amarna period continues to captivate and intrigue us. Akhenaten's successor, the young pharaoh Tutankhamun, c. 1332–1323 BCE, famously restored the traditional polytheistic religion, moving the capital back to Thebes and erasing many of his predecessors' reforms. Though his reign was brief and relatively unremarkable in terms of political achievements, his enduring fame stems from the spectacular discovery of his nearly intact tomb in 1922 by Howard Carter. The treasures found within, golden masks, intricate jewellery and countless artefacts, offered an unparalleled glimpse into the wealth and artistry of the New Kingdom, allowing us to connect intimately with the material culture of this ancient civilization. The New Kingdom continued its trajectory of power and monumentalism under later dynasties, reaching another zenith with the pharaohs of the 19th dynasty. Seti I, c. 1294–1279 BCE, a military leader and prolific builder, reconsolidated Egyptian control in the Levant and initiated magnificent construction projects, including his impressive temple at Abydos and the hypostyle hall at Karnak, a forest of towering columns that inspires awe to this day. Yet, it was his son, Ramses II, often hailed as Ramses the Great, c. 1279–1213 BCE, who truly embodied the grandeur and longevity of the New Kingdom. Ruling for an astonishing 66 years, Ramses VII was a master of propaganda and a relentless builder. His reign saw Egypt engaged in epic conflicts, most notably the Battle of Kadesh against the Hittite Empire, a massive chariot battle that, while militarily inconclusive, led to the world's first recorded peace treaty. Ramses VII adorned Egypt with countless temples and monuments, including the colossal rock-cut temples at Abu Simbel, the Ramesseum, and vast additions to the Karnak and Luxor temples. His legacy, etched in stone across the length and breadth of Egypt, is a powerful reminder of a pharaoh who sought to immortalize himself and his empire for all time. However, even the mightiest empires eventually face challenges. Towards the end of the New Kingdom, Egypt began to contend with a period of increasing external pressure and internal instability. The mysterious Sea Peoples, a confederation of maritime raiders, launched devastating attacks across the eastern Mediterranean, contributing to the collapse of the Bronze Age civilizations and severely weakening Egypt's imperial control. While Ramses III, c. 1186–1155 BCE, successfully repelled their invasions, the cost of these conflicts, combined with economic strain and growing power of the priesthood, gradually eroded pharaonic authority. As the New Kingdom drew to a close, Egypt entered a fragmented era known as the Third Intermediate Period, c. 1070–664 BCE, characterized by political decentralization and foreign rule, first by Libyan dynasties, then by Nubian pharaohs from the Kingdom of Kush. These were followed by a brief resurgence of native Egyptian rule in the Late Period, c. 643–2 BCE, though Egypt increasingly found itself under the sway of powerful external empires, the Assyrians, then the Persians. It was the arrival of Alexander the Great in 332 BCE that dramatically reshaped Egypt's destiny. Welcomed as a liberator from Persian rule, Alexander founded the city of Alexandria, envisioning it as a new intellectual and commercial hub. Upon his death, his vast empire was divided among his generals, and Egypt fell to Ptolemy the Soter, thus initiating the Ptolemaic dynasty, 305–30 BCE. This Hellenistic period saw Egypt ruled by a line of Greek pharaohs who, while adopting some Egyptian traditions, maintained a distinctly Greek culture. Alexandria flourished as a beacon of learning, home to the legendary Library of Alexandria and the towering lighthouse of Pharos, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The Ptolemaic era culminated with the iconic figure of Cleopatra Seventhus, r. 5130 BCE, the last active pharaoh of Egypt. A brilliant and charismatic ruler, she masterfully navigated the treacherous political landscape of the late Roman Republic, forming alliances with powerful Roman leaders like Julius Caesar and Mark Antony to preserve Egypt's independence. Her story, a blend of political acumen, personal charm, and tragic romance, is inextricably linked with the ultimate fate of ancient Egypt. Her defeat alongside Mark Antony by Octavian, later Emperor Augustus, at the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE, and her subsequent suicide marked the definitive end of pharaonic rule. Egypt was absorbed into the Roman Empire as a province, bringing to a close millennia of independent dynastic governance. As we gently transition from the vibrant narratives of the New Kingdom and the Hellenistic era, we find ourselves reflecting on the immense span of Egyptian civilization. From the unification of the 2 lands to the rule of the Ptolemies, Egypt endured as a testament to human ingenuity, artistic expression, and profound spiritual belief. Now, as the whispers of these ancient empires begin to fade, we invite you to sink deeper into your own quiet space. Allow the wealth of these historical facts to settle, not as burdens of knowledge, but as soft textures in the landscape of your thoughts. Let the monumental achievements and enduring legacies of these civilizations guide you towards a tranquil peace, a gentle unwinding as you prepare to embrace the restorative quiet of a peaceful sleep. As the echoes of pharaonic Egypt gently recede into the vast tapestry of the past, we allow our awareness to drift, like a tranquil vessel upon the waters, across the shimmering expanse of the Mediterranean Sea. We leave behind the fertile banks of the Nile, where millennia of independent rule found their poignant conclusion, and turn our gaze now towards the azure depths of the Aegean. Here, amidst a scattering of islands and the rugged coastline of a new continent, another profound chapter in human civilization began to unfold. A story of seafaring cultures, epic heroes, and the very foundations of Western thought and democracy. We invite you to settle deeper into your comfort, to let the gentle rhythm of these ancient narratives lull you further into a state of serene repose. We are venturing now into the heart of ancient Greece, a realm whose legacy continues to resonate through our world, shaping our philosophies, our arts, and our understanding of what it means to be human. Our journey through the Hellenic world begins not on the mainland, but upon the sun-drenched island of Crete, where, during the Bronze Age, a remarkable civilization flourished. This was the Minoan civilization, named after the legendary King Minos, and it emerged around 2700 BCE, reaching its zenith between 2000 and 1450 BCE. Unlike the fortified, often militaristic societies we have observed in Mesopotamia and Egypt, the Minoans appear to have cultivated a largely peaceful, maritime culture, their power stemming from trade and naval dominance rather than conquest. Their magnificent palaces, most notably the sprawling complex at Knossos, were unfortified, suggesting a society secure in its strength and protected by the sea. These palaces were not merely royal residences, they were vibrant administrative, religious, and economic centres, a labyrinthine marvel of multi-storey buildings, intricate plumbing systems, and vast storage magazines. The walls of Knossos were adorned with breathtaking frescoes, vivid murals depicting graceful figures, playful dolphins, leaping bull leapers, and lush natural scenes. These artworks provide a rare and intimate glimpse into Minoan life, showcasing their love for beauty, their connection to the sea, and a society where women appeared to hold a prominent role, often depicted in elaborate attire alongside men. The Minoans developed a unique writing system known as Linear A, which remains undeciphered to this day. Its symbols hint at a complex administrative structure, but the full scope of their language and literature remains a silent whisper from the past, awaiting its key. Their religion appears to have centered around a mother goddess, often associated with nature and fertility, with sacred rituals perhaps involving the daring feat of bull leaping, a practice depicted frequently in their art, suggesting a profound reverence for these powerful animals. The precise reasons for the decline of the Minoan civilization around 1450 BCE are still debated by historians. A catastrophic volcanic eruption on the nearby island of Thera, modern-day Santorini, around 1600 BCE undoubtedly caused widespread devastation, tsunamis, and ashfall, weakening the Minoan thalassocracy. This vulnerability, combined with potential internal strife or environmental changes, may have left them susceptible to incursions from a more aggressive power emerging on the Greek mainland, the Mycenaeans. Indeed, as the Minoan star began to dim, a new civilization, distinct yet influenced by its island predecessor, rose to prominence on mainland Greece. This was the Mycenaean civilization, flourishing from approximately 1600 to 1100 BCE, centered around powerful, heavily fortified citadel palaces like Mycenae, Tiryns, Pylos, and Thebes. The Mycenaeans presented a stark contrast to the Minoans. Their architecture, characterized by massive cyclopean walls constructed from colossal unworked stones, speaks volumes of a warrior aristocracy. The Mycenaean world was dominated by powerful kings, or monarchies, who ruled over their respective territories, engaging in both trade and warfare. Their wealth was immense, evidenced by the rich burial goods found in their tholos tombs, impressive beehive-shaped structures cut into hillsides, filled with gold, bronze weapons, and intricate jewellery. The famous Mask of Agamemnon. A gold burial mask discovered at Mycenae, though perhaps misattributed, symbolises the grandeur and legendary status of these Bronze Age kings, whose stories would later inspire the epic poems of Homer. Unlike Linear A, the Mycenaean writing system, Linear B was deciphered in the 1950s by Michael Ventris. It revealed an early form of Greek, primarily used for administrative and economic record-keeping, detailing inventories of goods, tribute payments, and military rosters. These clay tablets confirm the existence of a highly organized, centralized bureaucracy, managing a vast network of artisans, farmers, and soldiers. The Mycenaeans were skilled seafarers and traders, establishing contacts across the Aegean, the Levant, and Egypt. They were also fierce warriors, a characteristic that permeates their art and archaeological remains. It is this warrior culture that provides the historical backdrop, however faint, for the legendary Trojan War, immortalized in Homer's Iliad. While the existence of a single grand expedition may be mythical, archaeological evidence suggests conflicts between Mycenaean Greeks and the city of Troy, located in modern-day Turkey, were likely a reality, perhaps over trade routes or resources. The end of the Mycenaean civilization, around 1100 BCE, was abrupt and catastrophic, part of a wider phenomenon known as the Bronze Age collapse. This period saw the widespread destruction of major cities across the eastern Mediterranean, the disruption of trade networks, and the collapse of centralized states. While the exact causes are complex and multifaceted, theories include devastating invasions by the enigmatic. Quote 10. Internal revolts, climate change leading to widespread famine, and the disruption of vital trade routes for tin, a crucial component of bronze. Whatever the precise combination of factors, the collapse ushered in a period of profound regression for the Greek world. This ensuing era, spanning roughly from 1100 to 800 BCE, is often referred to as the Greek Dark Ages. It was a time of depopulation, economic decline, and the loss of literacy. The elaborate palace systems vanished, monumental architecture ceased, and artistic productions simplified dramatically. For nearly 3 centuries, the vibrant complexity of the Bronze Age receded, replaced by smaller, isolated settlements. Yet, even in this period of apparent stagnation, the seeds of future greatness were being sown. Oral traditions, including the epic tales of the Mycenaean past, were preserved and passed down through generations, awaiting a time when they could once again be committed to writing. As the Dark Ages slowly receded, around 800 BCE, the dawn of the Archaic period began to break over Greece, marking a remarkable resurgence. This era, lasting until about 500 BCE, witnessed the re-emergence of literacy, spurred by the adoption of a phonetic alphabet derived from the Phoenicians. It was during this time that the epic poems attributed to Homer, the Iliad and the Odyssey, were likely composed and written down, shaping Greek identity and providing a shared cultural heritage. These tales of heroes, gods, and destiny became foundational texts, influencing Greek morality, literature, and art for centuries to come. The most significant development of the Archaic period was the rise of the polis, or city-state. These independent, self-governing communities, often built around a fortified acropolis and a central agora, marketplace, became the defining political and social unit of ancient Greece. Each polis, though sharing a common language, religion, and culture, developed its own unique laws, customs, and forms of government, ranging from oligarchies, rule by a few, to tyrannies, rule by a single individual who seized power, and notably in Athens, the nascent stages of democracy, rule by the people. The pressures of increasing population and limited arable land led to a vigorous period of colonization throughout the Mediterranean and Black Sea. Greek city-states established daughter cities from Spain to southern Italy, Magna Graecia, and from North Africa to the shores of Asia Minor. These colonies not only spread Greek culture, language, and trade, but also fostered a sense of shared Hellenic identity, even as they maintained their independence from their mother cities. Military innovation also characterized the Archaic period with the development of the hoplite phalanx. This disciplined formation of heavily armed citizen soldiers, fighting shoulder to shoulder with long spears and large shields, revolutionized warfare and fostered a sense of collective responsibility and civic identity among the citizenry. Furthermore, the establishment of Pan-Hellenic athletic festivals, most famously the Olympic Games in 776 BCE, brought Greeks from various city-states together in peaceful competition, reinforcing their shared cultural bonds. As the Archaic period drew to a close, the stage was set for the remarkable flourishing of the Unclassical period, c. 500–323 BCE, an era that would define much of what we understand as just quote. It was a time of unparalleled artistic, philosophical and political innovation, but it began with a monumental challenge that threatened to extinguish the nascent Greek freedoms, the Persian Wars. From the east, the vast and formidable Achaemenid Persian Empire, under the ambitious kings Darius I and later Xerxes, cast a long shadow. After conquering the Greek city-states of Ionia in Asia Minor, Persia sought to extend its dominion over mainland Greece. The first Persian invasion, in 490 BCE, culminated in the legendary Battle of Marathon, where a vastly outnumbered Athenian force, fighting with the hoplite phalanx, decisively defeated the Persian army, pushing back the immediate threat and inspiring a deep sense of Greek confidence. 10 years later, in 480 BCE, Xerxes launched an even larger invasion, assembling an immense army and navy. The Greeks, led by the Spartan king Leonidas and his 300 warriors, made a heroic stand at the narrow pass of Diostos, Thermopylae, buying crucial time for the rest of Greece to mobilize. Though Thermopylae was a defeat, it became a symbol of courage and sacrifice. Shortly thereafter, the Athenian general Themistocles, through brilliant naval strategy, orchestrated a decisive victory for the Greek fleet against the larger Persian navy at the Battle of Salamis, effectively crippling Persian sea power and forcing Xerxes to retreat. The final land victory at Plataea in 479 BCE cemented Greek independence and ushered in an era of unprecedented self-belief and cultural achievement. These Persian wars were a pivotal moment, forging a sense of collective Hellenic identity against a common quote 12 foe. They marked the triumph of free city-states over imperial despotism and laid the groundwork for the golden age of Athens and the intellectual ferment that would follow. The sheer scale of these conflicts, the bravery displayed, and the ultimate victory against overwhelming odds resonated deeply throughout Greek society, shaping their understanding of freedom, civic duty, and destiny. As we reflect on the rise and fall of these early Greek civilizations, from the elegant Minoans to the warrior Mycenaeans, and the eventual reawakening of the archaic and classical periods, we are reminded of humanity's enduring capacity for adaptation, innovation, and resilience. Each wave of civilization, each challenge overcome, contributes another intricate thread to the rich tapestry of our shared past. Allow these stories to settle gently within your mind, like ancient dust motes dancing in a beam of moonlight, guiding you towards a state of profound calm. May your rest be as deep and undisturbed as the ancient secrets that lie beneath the Aegean waves. As the echoes of the Persian Wars softly fade, we find ourselves standing at the precipice of a new dawn for ancient Greece, a period of unprecedented intellectual and artistic flourishing, yet also one fraught with internal conflict. The collective triumph against the formidable Persian Empire had, paradoxically, sown the seeds of both profound unity and fierce rivalry among the Greek city-states. We invite you now to drift gently through this intricate tapestry of human endeavour, observing the intricate patterns of thought, the monumental achievements of art, and the complex dance of power that defined the heart of the classical age. The defeat of the Persians left Athens, in particular, imbued with immense prestige and confidence. As a leading naval power, it spearheaded the formation of the Cydelian League. In 478 BCE, an alliance initially intended to liberate Greek cities still under Persian rule and protect against future incursions. Member states contributed ships or money to a common treasury located on the sacred island of Delos. However, as the Persian threat receded, Athens began to assert its dominance, gradually transforming the League into a vast maritime empire. The treasury was moved to Athens, and contributions, once voluntary, became compulsory tribute. This burgeoning Athenian hegemony, fueled by naval power and economic prowess, ushered in what historians often call the Golden Age of Athens, or the Age of Pericles, a period stretching roughly from 460 to 429 BCE, under the visionary leadership of Pericles. A statesman of profound eloquence and strategic brilliance, Athenian democracy reached its zenith. This was a direct democracy, where male citizens over 18 could participate directly in the assembly, debating and voting on laws, treaties, and declarations of war. It was a radical experiment in self-governance, a testament to the belief in the power of the individual voice, even as it was limited by the exclusion of women, slaves, and foreign residents. Pericles famously declared Athens the school of Hellas, a beacon of culture and intellect, and indeed this era saw an explosion of creativity and philosophy, drama, history, and monumental architecture that continues to inspire and instruct us today. In the realm of a philosophy, Athens became the intellectual crucible of the Western world. Here, thinkers grappled with fundamental questions about existence, knowledge, ethics, and the ideal society. Socrates, a philosopher whose teachings were transmitted through his students, challenged Athenians to examine their lives and beliefs through relentless questioning, a method now known as the Socratic method. He sought universal truths, emphasizing the importance of virtue and self-knowledge, often to the discomfort of the powerful. His unwavering commitment to truth, even in the face of condemnation, culminated in his execution in 399 BCE, a tragic testament to the sometimes fragile nature of free thought. His most famous student, Plato, deeply affected by Socrates' fate, established the Academy, one of the earliest institutions of higher learning in the Western world. Plato's philosophical inquiries soared to abstract heights, proposing his theory of forms, wherein the physical world is merely a shadow of a perfect eternal realm of ideal forms. In his seminal work, The Republic, he envisioned an ideal state governed by philosopher kings, emphasizing justice, reason, and the harmonious functioning of society. Aristotle, Plato's most brilliant student, later founded his own school, the Lyceum. Unlike Plato's abstract idealism, Aristotle was a pragmatist and an empiricist, meticulously observing and categorizing the natural world. His vast intellectual contributions spanned logic, ethics, politics, biology, physics, and poetics, laying the groundwork for much of Western scientific and philosophical thought. He taught moderation, the pursuit of happiness through virtuous action, and the importance of empirical observation, shaping the minds of future generations, including one of history's most renowned conquerors, The Athenian Golden Age was also a period of unparalleled innovation in drama. The Dionysian festivals provided a stage for playwrights to explore universal themes of fate, morality, justice, and human suffering. Aeschylus, often called the Dendon, quote 14 dust, introduced multiple actors and complex plots, grappling with divine justice and the consequences of human actions. Sophocles, author of Oedipus Rex and Antigone, explored the tragic flaws of noble characters caught in unavoidable dilemmas, demonstrating profound psychological insight. Euripides, the most modern of the tragedians, questioned traditional values and depicted the raw, often irrational emotions of his characters, foreshadowing later psychological drama. Alongside tragedy, comedy flourished, with the Aristophanes and satirizing contemporary politics, society, and prominent figures with biting wit and often outrageous humour, offering a cathartic release and a critical mirror to the Athenian public. In architecture and art, the Golden Age left an indelible mark. The Acropolis, a rocky citadel overlooking Athens, was transformed into a breathtaking complex of temples and public buildings, symbolizing Athenian power and piety. The crowning glory was the Parthenon, a temple dedicated to the goddess Athena, built by architects Ictinus and Callicrates, and adorned with sculptures by Phidias. Its harmonious proportions, subtle optical refinements, and exquisite marble sculptures represented the pinnacle of classical Greek architectural and artistic achievement, embodying ideals of balance, order, and human perfection. Greek sculpture too moved towards idealized human forms, celebrating the beauty and strength of the human body, expressing a profound humanism that would resonate through millennia. Even the writing of history took on a new systematic form. Herodotus, often called the quote 15, travelled extensively to record the origins and events of the Persian Wars, weaving together narratives, customs, and geographical observations in his histories. His successor, Thucydides, a general who fought in the Peloponnesian War, adopted a more rigorous analytical approach in his history of the Peloponnesian War, seeking to understand the underlying causes and consequences of human conflict through meticulous research and critical analysis, largely devoid of divine intervention, thus laying the foundations for scientific history. Yet this vibrant era of Athenian flourishing was not destined to last indefinitely. The very power and ambition that fostered such brilliance also ignited the flames of conflict with other Greek city-states, particularly Sparta. The growing resentment of Athens' imperial control over the Delian League, coupled with Sparta's traditional rivalry and its fear of Athenian expansion, eventually erupted into the devastating Peloponnesian War, 431–404 BCE. This protracted and brutal conflict pitted the democratic naval empire of Athens against the oligarchic, land-based military might of Sparta and its Peloponnesian League allies. The war unfolded in several phases, marked by periods of intense fighting, uneasy truces, and unforeseen calamities. Pericles' initial strategy was to rely on Athens' formidable navy and its fortified walls, withdrawing the Attic population behind them and importing supplies by sea, while avoiding direct land battles with the superior Spartan army. However, a devastating plague ravaged Athens early in the war, claiming the lives of a quarter of its population, including Pericles himself, leaving a leadership vacuum and a deeply demoralized populace. A brief peace, the Peace of Nicias, brought a temporary respite, but Athenian ambition soon led to the disastrous Sicilian expedition, 415–413 BCE, a massive naval and military undertaking against Syracuse, a Spartan ally. This campaign ended in utter catastrophe for Athens, with its entire fleet destroyed and thousands of soldiers captured or killed, a blow from which it never truly recovered. Ultimately, after nearly 3 decades of intermittent warfare, Athens, weakened by internal strife, plague, and repeated military losses, surrendered to Sparta in 404 BCE. The Peloponnesian War concluded with the dismantling of the Athenian Empire, the destruction of its long walls, and the installation of an oligarchic regime, though democracy was later restored. The war profoundly altered the political landscape of Greece, leaving the city-states exhausted and vulnerable, their collective strength diminished, and their sense of shared Hellenic identity frayed by years of internecine conflict. The period following the Peloponnesian War saw a series of shifting hegemonies, as Sparta's brief dominance gave way to that of Thebes, under brilliant generals like Epaminondas. Thebes, with its elite sacred band, a core of 150 pairs of male lovers, achieved notable victories, but none of these city-states could establish a lasting stable control over Greece. This continuous cycle of warfare and power struggles further weakened the Greek polis, leaving them ripe for conquest by an emerging power from the north, Macedon. Philip II of Macedon, ascending to the throne in 359 BCE, was a shrewd and ambitious monarch. He recognized the disunity and exhaustion of the Greek city-states and set about transforming his kingdom into a formidable military and political force. Philip reformed the Macedonian army, creating a professional fighting force equipped with the revolutionary sarissa, a pike up to 18 feet long, used in a tightly disciplined phalanx formation. Through a combination of military innovation, diplomatic maneuvering, and strategic marriages, he gradually expanded Macedonian influence into Greece, despite the impassioned warnings of Athenian orator Demosthenes, who urged the Greeks to resist Philip. The city-states failed to unite effectively. The decisive Battle of Cheronea in 338 BCE saw Philip's forces, including his young son Alexander, crush the combined armies of Athens and Thebes, effectively ending the independence of the Greek city-states. Philip then formed the Corinthian League, ostensibly a Hellenic alliance, but in reality a tool for Macedonian control, with himself as its hegemon or leader. He began planning a grand invasion of the Persian Empire, ostensibly to avenge the earlier Persian invasions of Greece. However, Philip's grand ambitions were cut short when he was assassinated in 336 BCE, leaving his vast plans and powerful army to his 20-year-old son, Alexander III. Educated by Aristotle himself, Alexander was a brilliant military strategist, a charismatic leader, and a man driven by an almost mythical ambition. He swiftly consolidated his power, crushed revolts in Greece, and then embarked on the audacious campaign his father had planned, the conquest of the Persian Empire. Alexander's campaigns were a whirlwind of unparalleled military genius. In rapid succession, he defeated the Persian forces at the Battle of Granicus, 334 BCE, the Battle of Issus, 333 BCE, where he personally confronted and routed King Darius III, and the Siege of Tyre, 332 BCE. He then marched into Egypt, where he was welcomed as a liberator and founded the city of Alexandria, which would become a beacon of learning and culture for centuries. His final decisive victory over Darius came at the Battle of Gaugamela, 331 BCE, effectively shattering the Persian Empire. Alexander continued his relentless march eastward, conquering territories stretching to the Indus River in India, where his exhausted and homesick troops finally mutinied. Reluctantly he turned back, but his vision was not merely conquest. He sought to create a new, Hellenistic world, blending Greek and Eastern cultures. He encouraged his soldiers to marry local women, adopted Persian customs, and established numerous cities named Alexandria throughout his empire. In 323 BCE, at the age of 32, Alexander the Great died suddenly in Babylon, likely from fever, leaving behind an empire of unprecedented scale and an uncertain future. His death marked the end of an era and ushered in the Hellenistic period, a new phase of ancient history. With no clear successor, his generals, known as the Diadochi, quote 16, plunged into decades of brutal warfare, ultimately dividing Alexander's vast empire into several powerful Hellenistic kingdoms. The most prominent of these were the Ptolemaic kingdom in Egypt, ruled by Ptolemy and his descendants, including Cleopatra VII, the Seleucid empires in Asia, founded by Seleucus, stretching from Anatolia to India, and the Antigonid kingdom in Macedon and Greece. The Hellenistic age, 323-31 BCE, was characterized by a profound shift from the independent city-state model to larger monarchical kingdoms. While the political landscape was dominated by these powerful dynasties, Greek culture, language, Koine Greek, and institutions spread across a vast geographical area, a process known as Hellenization. Cities like Alexandria in Egypt, Antioch in Syria, and Pergamon in Asia Minor became vibrant cosmopolitan centers of trade, learning, and art. New philosophical schools emerged, such as Stoicism, which emphasized virtue, reason, and living in harmony with the divine order, and Epicureanism, which advocated for the pursuit of pleasure, defined as the absence of pain and mental disturbance, and a tranquil life. This period also saw remarkable advancements in science and mathematics. Euclid, working in Alexandria, codified geometry in his Elements, a textbook that remained standard for over 2,000 years. Archimedes of Syracuse made groundbreaking discoveries in mechanics, physics, and mathematics, including the principle of buoyancy and the approximation of pi. Eratosthenes, also in Alexandria, accurately calculated the Earth's circumference and developed a system of latitude and longitude. The Hellenistic world was a crucible of intellectual curiosity, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge in unprecedented ways. Yet, even these grand Hellenistic kingdoms, despite their cultural and scientific achievements, were destined to eventually fall under the shadow of an emerging power to the west, Rome. As we gently draw this chapter to a close, we reflect on the enduring legacy of ancient Greece, its profound contributions to democracy, philosophy, drama, architecture, and science, which laid the very foundations of Western civilization. From the fierce independence of the city-states to the vast interconnected world of Alexander and his successors, the journey of Hellenic culture is a testament to human ingenuity and ambition. Now, as these tales of ancient glory and innovation settle softly in your mind, we invite you to embrace the deepening calm. Let the echoes of philosophers and the visions of grand temples guide you towards a tranquil state, a peaceful prelude to a restorative night's rest. Close your eyes and allow the gentle currents of history to carry you into the quiet depths of sleep. As the echoes of Alexander's vast yet fleeting empire begin to soften, and the Hellenistic kingdoms, born of his ambition, slowly yield to new forces, we find ourselves drifting toward the next monumental chapter in humanity's grand narrative. We leave behind the vibrant intellectual hubs of Alexandria and Antioch, the philosophical debates and the scientific marvels, allowing their brilliance to gently recede into the quiet chambers of memory. Now we turn our gaze westward to a different kind of power, one that would not merely adapt the cultures it encountered, but would forge a new, enduring order across the Western world. Ancient Rome. Take a deep, calming breath with us, letting any lingering thoughts of the past melt away like morning mist. We invite you to settle deeper into your sanctuary of rest as we prepare to trace the remarkable journey of a city that began as a humble settlement on 7 hills and grew to command an empire unparalleled in its reach and longevity. We will observe the intricate dance of ambition and governance, innovation and tradition that characterized this formidable civilization, allowing its story to unfold with a gentle, measured rhythm, guiding you toward profound tranquility. The origins of Rome are steeped in myth and legend, a testament to its people's profound sense of destiny. We hear tales of Aeneas, a Trojan prince, who, fleeing the burning ruins of his city, journeyed across the Mediterranean to the shores of Italy, his fate intertwined with the founding of a new, glorious lineage. Generations later, the story of the twin brothers, Romulus and Remus, abandoned to the wilderness, suckled by a she-wolf, and eventually destined to found a city, captivates the imagination. It was Romulus, tradition holds, who marked out the sacred boundaries of Rome on the Palatine Hill in 753 BCE, though in a tragic dispute over the city's leadership, he slew his brother, forever staining Rome's birth with fratricide. Such dramatic beginnings, whether literal truth or allegorical prophecy, speak to the fierce, pragmatic, and often ruthless spirit that would come to define the Roman people. In its earliest days, Rome was not a republic or an empire, but a monarchy, often influenced by the sophisticated Etruscans, a civilization dwelling to the north of Rome. The Etruscans introduced advanced engineering, urban planning, and religious practices, leaving an indelible mark on Rome's early development. They taught the Romans much about building, about the augury of birds, and about the very concept of urbanity. For over 2 centuries, kings ruled Rome, until in 509 BCE, a popular uprising fueled by resentment against the tyrannical King Lucius Tarquinius Superbus led to the expulsion of the monarchy. This pivotal moment marked the birth of the Roman Republic, a new form of governance that would shape the Western world for nearly 5 centuries. The Roman Republic was a complex and innovative system, designed to prevent the concentration of power in any single individual. At its heart lay the Senate, a body of elder statesmen, initially composed of patricians, the aristocratic families who claimed descent from Rome's earliest founders. Though technically an advisory body, the Senate wielded immense influence, guiding foreign policy, managing finances, and shaping legislation. Executive power was vested in 2 annually elected consuls, who served as supreme civil and military magistrates, presiding over the Senate and commanding the legions. This dual consulship with its 1-year term was a deliberate check against tyranny, ensuring no single person could hold unchecked power for too long. Alongside these, various assemblies where Roman citizens could vote on laws and elect officials provided a measure of popular participation, embodying the Roman ideal of res publica, the public thing. Yet the early republic was not a harmonious democracy. It was marked by a protracted conflict of the orders between the patricians and the plebeians, the common citizens who formed the vast majority of the population. The plebeians, though free, initially lacked political representation and legal protections, leading to widespread social and economic grievances. Over centuries, through a series of secessions and persistent demands, the plebeians gradually won significant concessions. They gained their own representatives, the tribunes of the plebs, who possessed the power to veto actions harmful to the plebeians. A crucial milestone was the publication of the Laws of the 12 Tables around 450 BCE, Rome's first written legal code, which provided a foundational framework for Roman law and ensured that citizens, regardless of their status, could know their rights and obligations. This long, arduous struggle for equality slowly integrated the plebeians into the fabric of Roman governance, strengthening the republic through broader participation. With its internal structures stabilizing, Rome began its inexorable expansion across the Italian peninsula. The Roman army, renowned for its discipline, organization, and tactical flexibility, became the engine of this growth. Unlike many ancient empires that simply conquered and extracted tribute, Rome often integrated defeated peoples into its system, offering various degrees of citizenship, alliances, or municipal status. This strategy fostered loyalty and provided a continuous supply of manpower for its ever-growing legions. Through a series of wars against the Latin League, the Samnites, and the Greek city-states of Magna Graecia in southern Italy, Rome gradually asserted its dominance, creating a unified and formidable power base across the entire peninsula by the mid-3rd century BCE. This expansion, however, brought Rome into direct conflict with another rising power, Carthage, a wealthy Phoenician city-state located on the coast of modern-day Tunisia. Carthage controlled a vast maritime empire, dominating trade routes and holding territories in Sicily, Sardinia, and Hispania. The clash between these two titans for supremacy in the Mediterranean would erupt into the series of brutal and defining conflicts known as the Punic Wars. The First Punic War, 264–241 BCE, was primarily a naval struggle for control of Sicily. Initially lacking a strong navy, the Romans famously reverse-engineered a Carthaginian warship, adapting it with a boarding ramp known as the corvus, which transformed naval battles into land engagements. After years of costly warfare, Rome emerged victorious, gaining Sicily, Sardinia, and Corsica, and establishing itself as a significant naval power. But Carthage, under the brilliant general Hamilcar Barca, and later his even more formidable son Hannibal, was far from defeated. The Second Punic War, 218–201 BCE, remains one of the most epic conflicts in ancient history. Hannibal, driven by a burning desire for vengeance, famously led his army, complete with war elephants, across the Alps, descending into Italy to wreak havoc for over a decade. He inflicted devastating defeats upon the Romans at battles like Trebia, Lake Trasimene, and most famously Cannae, where he encircled and annihilated a much larger Roman army. Yet, despite these crushing losses, Rome's resilience, its ability to continually raise new legions, and its refusal to surrender ultimately proved decisive. Under the leadership of Scipio Africanus, a brilliant Roman general, Rome shifted its strategy, attacking Carthaginian holdings in Hispania and eventually invading North Africa itself. Hannibal was forced to return to defend Carthage, where he was finally defeated by Scipio at the Battle of Zama in 202 BCE. The Second Punic War left Carthage crippled, stripped of its overseas territories, and forced to pay a massive indemnity. Even after such a decisive victory, some Romans, most notably the censor Cato the Elder, continued to view Carthage as an existential threat, famously ending every speech with Cern, quote 19, quote 20. This sentiment ultimately led to the Third Punic War, 149–146 BCE, a brief and brutal siege that culminated in the complete destruction of Carthage. The city was razed, its lands reportedly sown with salt, though this detail is debated by historians, and its people enslaved. With Carthage utterly obliterated, Rome stood as the undisputed master of the Mediterranean world, poised to expand its influence across vast new territories. This unprecedented expansion, however, came at a heavy cost, not only in lives, but in the very fabric of the Republic. The influx of immense wealth and vast numbers of slaves from conquered territories transformed Roman society. Small farmers, who formed the backbone of the legions, found their lands neglected during long campaigns, often returning to find them bought up by wealthy senators who consolidated vast estates known as latifundia, worked by slave labour. This created a growing class of landless poor in Rome, dependent on public handouts, and a widening chasm between the immensely rich and the impoverished masses. The traditional virtues of simplicity, civic duty, and agrarian independence began to erode, replaced by greed, political corruption, and social unrest. Attempts to address these mounting social crises often met with violent resistance. The Gracchi brothers, Tiberius and Gaius, tribunes in the late 2nd century BCE, championed radical land reforms to redistribute public lands to the poor. Their efforts, though popular with the plebeians, threatened the vested interests of the senatorial elite and ultimately led to their brutal assassinations, marking a dark turning point where political disputes were increasingly settled with bloodshed rather than debate. The ensuing decades saw the rise of powerful generals who commanded personal armies, loyal to them rather than to the Republic. Figures like Gaius Marius, who reformed the army by recruiting landless citizens and promising them land upon retirement, and his rival Lucius Cornelius Sulla, who marched on Rome with his legions, instigating civil war and proscriptions, shattered the long-held tradition of civilian control over the military. The Republic was spiraling into an era of strongmen and political violence. The final tumultuous decades of the Republic were dominated by a series of powerful individuals who sought to control Rome. The First Triumvirate, an unofficial political alliance formed around 60 BCE, brought together three ambitious men: Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, Pompey the Great, a renowned general; Marcus Licinius Crassus, Rome's wealthiest citizen; and Gaius Julius Caesar, a charismatic and brilliant politician and military commander. This alliance, designed to pool their influence and circumvent the Senate, ultimately proved unstable. It was Julius Caesar who would irrevocably alter the course of Roman history. His spectacular conquests in Gaul, which extended Roman dominion to the Atlantic and across the Rhine, brought him immense wealth, military glory, and the unwavering loyalty of his legions. When the Senate, urged by Pompey, ordered him to disband his army and return to Rome as a private citizen, Caesar famously defied them, crossing the Rubicon River in 49 BCE, a point of no return. Quote 21. Quote 22. He declared, initiating a devastating civil war against Pompey and the senatorial establishment. Caesar's military genius proved overwhelming. He defeated Pompey and his allies in Greece, Egypt, and Africa, returning to Rome as the undisputed master. As dictator, Caesar initiated wide-ranging reforms, from calendar adjustments to infrastructure projects and land distribution. He centralized power, diminished the Senate's authority, and openly embraced his autocratic rule. His ambition, however, instilled fear among those who cherished the Republic, leading to his assassination on the Ides of March in 44th BCE by a conspiracy of senators who believed they were saving Rome from tyranny. Yet, instead of restoring the Republic, Caesar's death plunged Rome into another brutal power struggle, one that would ultimately pave the way for the Republic's final demise and the birth of an empire. We pause here, allowing the dramatic crescendo of the late Roman Republic to gently fade. The echoes of civil war, the clash of legions, and the profound societal shifts that accompanied Rome's rise to dominance now recede into the quiet depths of your mind. As we prepare to delve into the next phase of Rome's extraordinary journey, we invite you to embrace the stillness, to find comfort in the measured pace of history, and to allow these ancient narratives to guide you toward a deeper, more profound state of rest. The stage is set for an entirely new chapter in Rome's story, one that will usher in an era of emperors and unparalleled imperial might. For now, simply breathe, and let the gentle current of time carry you towards slumber, as the echoes of the Roman Republic's final, desperate struggles began to fade. We find ourselves drifting gently into a new epoch, a time of profound transformation that would forever reshape the Western world. The assassination of Julius Caesar, a cataclysmic act intended to restore the old order, instead plunged Rome into a fresh maelstrom of civil war, a turbulent period from which it would emerge irrevocably changed, not as a republic, but as an empire. We invite you now to settle deeper into your tranquility, allowing the vast currents of history to carry you forward, observing how order, in its own unique and often unexpected forms, can rise from the ashes of chaos. The immediate aftermath of Caesar's death was a volatile landscape of power vacuums and shifting allegiances. Three formidable figures rose to prominence, forming what historians would later call the Second Triumvirate: Gaius Octavius, Caesar's young adopted heir; Marcus Antonius, Caesar's trusted general; and Marcus Aemilius Lepidus, a powerful politician. United by a shared desire for vengeance against Caesar's assassins and a ruthless ambition for control, they systematically hunted down and eliminated their enemies, culminating in the decisive Battle of Philippi in 42 BCE, where Brutus and Cassius, the leading conspirators, met their end. With their common foes vanquished, the triumvirs divided the vast Roman dominion among themselves, a temporary truce that masked an inevitable clash of titans. Lepidus, the less influential of the three, was soon sidelined, leaving the sprawling Roman world split between Octavian in the west and Antony in the east. It was in the opulent and ancient lands of the east that Marcus Antonius, captivated by the allure and strategic brilliance of Cleopatra VII, the last pharaoh of Egypt, forged a powerful alliance and a passionate bond. Their union, however, became a potent symbol of perceived Eastern decadence and a threat to Roman traditions in the eyes of Octavian and the Roman Senate. Octavian, meticulously cultivating his image as the champion of Roman virtue and stability, skillfully portrayed Antony as having abandoned his Roman duty for an Eastern queen, creating a powerful narrative that rallied support to his cause. The simmering tensions erupted into open warfare, culminating in the monumental naval Battle of Actium in 31 BCE. This was not merely a clash of fleets, but a collision of two worlds, two visions for the future of Rome. Octavian's forces, led by the brilliant Admiral Agrippa, decisively defeated the combined fleets of Antony and Cleopatra. The lovers, their hopes shattered, retreated to Egypt, where they soon took their own lives, bringing an end to the Hellenistic Ptolemaic dynasty that had ruled Egypt for nearly 3 centuries since the death of Alexander the Great. With this victory, Octavian stood as the undisputed master of the Roman world, his path to absolute power now clear. Yet, Octavian understood the deep-seated Roman aversion to kings and dictators. Rather than openly seizing the throne, he embarked on a masterful political maneuver, a delicate dance of power and pretense. In 27 BCE, he dramatically, quote 23, the Republic, renouncing his extraordinary powers and offering to return control to the Senate and the Roman people. In gratitude, or perhaps in shrewd recognition of the underlying reality, the Senate bestowed upon him the honorific title, quote, 24, meaning, quote, 25. This marked the official beginning of the Roman Empire and the Pax Romana, a period of unprecedented peace and stability that would last for over 2 centuries. Augustus, as he was now known, carefully crafted a system known as the Principate, where he held ultimate authority as princeps, first citizen, subtly controlling the military, treasury and foreign policy, while maintaining the outward appearance of republican institutions. His reign was a golden age of administrative reform, monumental building projects, and cultural flourishing, laying the foundations for Rome's enduring imperial legacy. As we journey through the early centuries of the empire, we observe the challenges inherent in a system built around a single, dominant figure. The Julio-Claudian dynasty, comprising Augustus's successors, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, and Nero, demonstrated the complex interplay of individual character and imperial power. From Tiberius's cautious rule to Caligula's notorious excesses, Claudius's scholarly administration, and Nero's artistic ambitions and eventual tyranny, each reign cast its own unique shadow and light upon the vast Roman stage. The absence of a clear system of succession often led to intrigue, plots, and violence, a stark reminder that even in an era of peace, the seat of power remained a dangerous place. After Nero's downfall in 68 CE, a brief but intense period known as the quote, 26 plunged Rome into civil war once more, highlighting the fragility of the imperial system. Stability was eventually restored by Vespasian, who founded the Flavian dynasty. Under the Flavians, Rome saw a return to pragmatic governance and impressive public works, most notably the construction of the iconic Colosseum, a testament to Roman engineering and the grandeur of imperial spectacle. The subsequent era, often hailed as the quote 27, Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antoninus Pius, and Marcus Aurelius, represents perhaps the zenith of Roman imperial rule. This was a period characterized by relative peace, prosperity, and enlightened governance, where succession was often managed through adoption, ensuring that capable leaders, rather than merely blood relatives, ascended to power. Under Trajan, the empire reached its greatest territorial extent, stretching from Britain to Mesopotamia. Hadrian, a skilled administrator and builder, focused on consolidating and fortifying the existing borders, famously constructing Hadrian's Wall in Britannia. Antoninus Pius enjoyed a reign of remarkable tranquility, while Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, faced the challenges of renewed barbarian incursions and a devastating plague, leaving behind his profound Stoic reflections in Meditations. This was an era where the intricate patterns of Roman law, infrastructure, and culture spread far and wide, weaving a rich tapestry across the diverse lands under its dominion. Yet, even the mightiest empires are subject to the inexorable currents of change and the weight of their own vastness. Following the 5 good emperors, the Roman Empire entered a period of increasing instability, often referred to as the crisis of the 3rd century, 235 to 284 CE. This tumultuous era was marked by frequent changes of emperors, often military strongmen who rose and fell with alarming rapidity, along with civil wars, economic collapse, and relentless external pressures from barbarian tribes along its extensive frontiers. The very fabric of Roman society seemed to fray under the strain. From this crucible of chaos emerged 2 monumental figures who sought to restore order and prolong the empire's life. Diocletian, a shrewd and determined emperor, implemented radical reforms, most notably dividing the empire into eastern and western halves, each with its own Augustus and Caesar, a system known as the Tetrarchy. This administrative division aimed to improve governance and defense across the vast realm, though it also sowed the seeds for a future permanent split. Constantine the Great, who rose to power after the collapse of the Tetrarchy, enacted another profound transformation. His conversion to Christianity, famously after a vision before the Battle of Milvian Bridge, led to the Edict of Milan in 313 CE, which granted religious toleration throughout the empire, ending centuries of persecution. He also moved the imperial capital from Rome to a new city, Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, strategically located at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, a decision that would have immense consequences for the empire's future, shifting its centre of gravity eastward. Later, Emperor Theodosius the would make Christianity the official state religion of the empire, fundamentally altering its cultural and spiritual landscape. Despite these efforts to stabilize and renew, the Western Roman Empire continued its slow, inexorable decline, a combination of internal decay, political corruption, economic woes, social unrest, and a diminishing sense of civic duty, and relentless external pressures from migrating barbarian tribes such as the Goths, Vandals, and Huns proved too much to withstand. Rome itself was sacked in 410 CE by the Visigoths, and again in 455 CE by the Vandals, symbolic blows to its once unassailable prestige. The traditional date for the fall of the Western Roman Empire is 476 CE, when the last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was deposed by the Germanic chieftain Odoacer. This event did not signify a sudden collapse, but rather the culmination of centuries of gradual decline, marking the transition from classical antiquity to the early Middle Ages in Western Europe. Yet, the story of Rome did not entirely end there. The Eastern Roman Empire, centered in Constantinople, continued to flourish for another 1,000 years, evolving into what we now know as the Byzantine Empire. It preserved Roman law, Greek culture, and Christian faith, acting as a bulwark against invasions and a beacon of civilization for centuries. The legacy of Rome, its law, language, architecture, engineering, and political thought, would continue to shape the world long after its western heart ceased to beat. As we gently bring our contemplation of this monumental civilization to a close for now, we invite you to reflect on the immense sweep of Roman history, from its humble origins to its imperial grandeur and eventual fragmentation. The lessons of its rise and fall, its innovations and its struggles, offer a timeless narrative of human ambition, resilience, and the intricate dance of power. May these powerful whispers from the past guide you toward a deeper sense of peace and a tranquil, restorative sleep. Rest well, knowing that the journey through history continues, always awaiting your gentle return. As the echoes of Rome's western twilight gently fade, we find ourselves at the precipice of a new era, observing the intricate reweaving of the tapestry of human civilization. The grand imperial edifice, once spanning vast continents, had fractured, but its spirit, its laws, its very essence, continued to ripple through the world in myriad forms. While the Western Roman Empire had succumbed to the pressures of time and migration, the Eastern Roman Empire, centered on the magnificent city of Constantinople, stood firm, a vibrant beacon of continuity and transformation, poised to forge its own remarkable destiny. This enduring eastern half, which we now know as the Byzantine Empire, did not see itself as separate from Rome, but rather as its direct, legitimate successor. Its citizens for centuries continued to identify as Romans, their emperors bearing the ancient title, their laws rooted in Roman tradition. Yet, over time, a distinct identity emerged, shaped by the Greek language, the flourishing of Orthodox Christianity, and a unique synthesis of Roman law, Hellenistic culture, and Eastern influences. Constantinople, strategically situated at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, was more than a capital. It was a marvel of the ancient world, a fortified metropolis of immense wealth, intellectual vibrancy, and unparalleled artistic achievement. Its formidable walls, its bustling markets, and its magnificent churches, most notably the Hagia Sophia, stood as testaments to its enduring power and spiritual depth. One of the most defining periods of the early Byzantine Empire was the reign of Emperor Justinian I from 527 to 565 CE. A figure of monumental ambition and intellect, Justinian harboured a profound vision: the restoration of the Roman Empire to its former glory. Through the tireless efforts of his brilliant general Belisarius, significant portions of the lost Western Empire were reclaimed, including North Africa from the Vandals and the Italian peninsula from the Ostrogoths, though these reconquests often came at a staggering cost in lives and resources. More enduring than his military campaigns, however, was Justinian's monumental legal achievement, the Corpus Juris Civilis, or Quote 30. This comprehensive compilation and codification of centuries of Roman law became the bedrock of legal systems across Europe, a profound intellectual legacy that continues to influence jurisprudence to this very day. Within its pages, the wisdom of Roman governance was preserved and clarified, offering a timeless framework for order and justice. Beyond law and conquest, Justinian's reign also saw an explosion of architectural innovation, epitomized by the construction of the Hagia Sophia. Conceived as a cathedral of unparalleled splendor, its massive dome seemed to float effortlessly above the vast interior, a testament to human ingenuity and spiritual aspiration. It was a structure that captivated the imagination, inspiring awe and reverence, and it remains one of the world's most breathtaking examples of architectural genius. Yet, even amid such grandeur, the empire faced immense internal challenges, perhaps none more dramatic than the Nika riots of 532 CE, a massive uprising that nearly cost Justinian his throne. These turbulent events underscore the complex interplay of power, religion, and popular will that shaped the Byzantine world. As the Byzantine Empire solidified its unique identity, further to the south, in the arid lands of the Arabian Peninsula, a transformative force was gathering momentum, a force that would reshape the geopolitical and cultural landscape of the ancient world with astonishing speed and enduring impact. Before the 7th century CE, Arabia was a land of nomadic tribes and scattered settlements, its peoples largely polytheistic, their lives intertwined with trade routes that crisscrossed the desert, connecting the Roman and Persian empires. Mecca, a significant trading hub, housed the Kaaba, a revered sanctuary that drew pilgrims from across the region. It was into this world that the Prophet Muhammad was born in Mecca around 570 CE. His life and teachings would lay the foundation for a new monotheistic faith, Islam. Around 610 CE, Muhammad began receiving divine revelations, which he shared with his community, emphasizing the absolute oneness of God, Allah, and a moral code centered on justice, compassion, and submission to divine will. Facing persecution in Mecca, Muhammad and his followers undertook the Hijra, or migration, to Medina in 622 CE. This pivotal event marks the beginning of the Islamic calendar and the establishment of the first Muslim community, or Ummah, where the nascent faith could flourish and organize. From Medina, Islam spread rapidly across Arabia, unifying disparate tribes under a shared spiritual and political banner. Following the Prophet Muhammad's death in 632 CE, the leadership of the Muslim community passed to a succession of caliphs known as the Rashidun, or, quote, the 31 caliphs. Under their guidance, the nascent Islamic State embarked on a period of extraordinary expansion. Within decades, the armies of Islam swept across vast territories, conquering the mighty Sassanid Persian Empire entirely and wresting vital provinces from the Byzantine Empire, including Syria, Egypt, and North Africa. This astonishing success was fueled by a combination of religious fervor, effective military organization, and the internal weaknesses of the two great empires, which had been exhausted by centuries of mutual warfare. Cities like Damascus and Jerusalem, long bastions of Roman and Hellenistic culture, now became centers of Islamic learning and governance. The subsequent Umayyad Caliphate, established in 661 CE with its capital in Damascus, continued this expansion, pushing west across North Africa into the Iberian Peninsula, where the rich Islamic civilization of Al-Andalus would flourish for centuries. To the east, their reach extended into Central Asia, bringing new peoples and cultures into the Islamic fold. This vast empire, stretching from the Atlantic to the Indus River, became a vibrant melting pot of ideas, where Greek philosophy, Roman legal principles, and Persian artistic traditions were absorbed, translated, and built upon by Muslim scholars, laying the groundwork for a golden age of scientific and intellectual advancement. The Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, an early masterpiece of Islamic architecture, stands as a testament to the new aesthetic and spiritual power that had emerged. Meanwhile, in Western Europe, the landscape was far more fragmented and dynamic. With the collapse of Roman administrative structures, the region had entered a period of profound transformation, often referred to as the early Middle Ages. Germanic peoples who had migrated into the empire over centuries now established their own kingdoms, the Visigoths in Spain, the Ostrogoths, and later the Lombards in Italy, the Vandals in North Africa, and the Anglo-Saxons in Britain. These kingdoms, while adopting aspects of Roman culture and law, also introduced their own customs and traditions, forging new identities that would eventually evolve into the nations of modern Europe. Among these emerging powers, the Franks, initially settled in what is now modern-day France and parts of Germany, rose to particular prominence. Under leaders like Clovis the Fair, in the late 5th and early 6th centuries, the various Frankish tribes were unified, and their conversion to Nicene Christianity solidified a crucial alliance with the papacy in Rome, laying the groundwork for a unique religious and political partnership that would define much of medieval Western Europe. This Merovingian dynasty, though often plagued by internal strife, gradually expanded its influence. The true revitalization of Western European political and cultural life, however, came with the rise of the Carolingian dynasty in the 8th century. Charles Martel, a powerful Frankish mayor of the palace, famously halted the Umayyad Caliphate's advance into Francia at the Battle of Tours in 732 CE, a victory often seen as critical in preserving Christian Europe. His grandson, Charlemagne, who reigned from 768 to 814 CE, became the most iconic figure of this era. A formidable warrior and an astute administrator, Charlemagne expanded the Frankish kingdom into an empire that encompassed much of Western and Central Europe. His coronation as Emperor of the Romans by Pope Leo III on Christmas Day in 800 CE was a moment of immense symbolic significance, marking a perceived revival of the Western Roman Empire and solidifying the intertwining of secular power with papal authority. Charlemagne's reign was not merely about military conquest. It also initiated the Carolingian Renaissance, a period of cultural and intellectual revival. He fostered education, encouraged the copying of ancient texts, standardized monastic rules, and promoted literacy among the clergy, thereby preserving classical knowledge that might otherwise have been lost. This burst of intellectual activity, though modest compared to its classical predecessors, was crucial in laying the foundations for future European scholarship. Yet, even Charlemagne's vast empire proved difficult to maintain, and upon his death it eventually fragmented into what would become the nascent kingdoms of France and Germany, setting the stage for the complex political geography of medieval Europe. Across these lands, new social and economic structures, often referred to as early feudalism, began to take root, shaping the lives of peasants, lords, and kings in an intricate web of obligation and hierarchy. As we gently reflect on these profound transformations, we observe how the ancient world did not simply end, but rather evolved, its threads rewoven into new and vibrant patterns, from the enduring flame of Byzantium, preserving the Roman legacy, to the dynamic expansion of Islam, creating a vast new civilization of unparalleled intellectual achievement and the gradual emergence of new kingdoms in Western Europe, laying the groundwork for its future. The spirit of human ingenuity and adaptability continued to manifest. The wisdom of the Greeks, the law of the Romans, the faith of the Christians, and the scholarship of the Muslims all converged and diverged, forming a rich tapestry of continuity and change. Allow these images of shifting empires and emergent cultures to settle within your mind, like dust motes dancing in a shaft of ancient sunlight. There is a profound comfort in understanding that even in moments of great upheaval, the human journey persists, ever evolving, ever creating. As the gentle currents of history carry us forward, we invite you to drift into a peaceful state of rest, knowing that the intricate dance of civilization continues, its rhythm a soothing lullaby. Let your thoughts unwind, your body relax, and your spirit find tranquility in the quiet contemplation of these monumental epochs. Sleep now and dream of the enduring legacies that shape our world.